welcome back to another episode of South Star Classroom. That's Omar. I am Charles.
What up,
Our other two superstars are not with us today, but when the adults away, the kids shall play. And yeah, they should know better than to leave Omar and Charles alone because we are politicos, political nerds. We've been talking about politics for the last year, and he and I both had some premonitions that we've seen kind of start stepping in and coming true. There's a few different topics we have today, but before I dive into today for our political episode with Omar and Charles, Omar, how are you doing? What's your updates, brother?
Oh man, shout out to Jubilee, who loves emotions and feelings, and the check-ins. They're important, man.
Sure does.
Yeah, man, just as always, huge love to everybody in Los Angeles and California. We still are keeping, major tabs on what's going on over there. Interestingly enough, like as California is up in flames, Texas is frozen over. Like literal Arctic temperatures going on in Texas right now, especially in El Paso. Yeah, man, global climate change is a real thing. And, as we live through it, my hope is always that under these circumstances, and even with yesterday, that everyone treats each other with some kindness and some love and some compassion. But things are all right, man. Semester's getting started. Kids are doing all right. We had to delay school today because we didn't want kids out in 9-degree weather in El Paso. They ain't
it was 9 degrees?
accustomed to such things. Yeah.
Dude, I was going to ask you what the weather was. You want to know what our low was today?
Please tell me it was negative 182.
-6, -7. Now it's warm. It's warmed up. It's warmed up. It's like a scorching, like 1 degree right now.
It's
what
two.
I'm saying? Yeah, scorching out there. Well, look, man, there's a lot of
comical, that's a comical number of for weather when it's like 17 out or like 2. It's like all we got is 2.
Nah, it's weird because it'll be 1 degree. It'll say 1 degree, but it'll say feels like -11. Like, what is it? Is it 1 or a -11? What? Dress for the -11, please. Dress for the worst one.
Yeah, man, it's that wind, baby. I was going optimistic. I thought you were going to be like, it's 2, but it feels like 3.
I mean, no. Listen, I'm fine. People are like, "Are you surviving?" I'm like, I'm in a house. I'm in my home. But nah, man, it's definitely icy outside, but no snow right now, so no precipitation. That might change. I'm not sure, but it's been a hectic election season. We're coming off of that. Inauguration happened yesterday, and there's a few different topics that we both had. So for us to let you all in the back door here, when Omar and I I changed the whole show when I found out it was going to be Omar because we like to nerd out on the political stuff and we can have our little longer takes and don't have to share as much of the ball. So I changed it around. I just relaunched one of my solo shows called Common Sense with Dr. Cole. It's in partnership with Bright Beam and Ed Post. But one of the topics that I talked about was just around, I saw a lot of people in the education space saying that they're going to sit these 4 years out. They're not going to engage with the current power structure. They refuse to, and to which I wrote a piece and then I did a show on basically saying, I think sitting out is the biggest privilege that you can show right now. Because there's poor kids that can't just opt out and go away. And it's part of what we have to do as adults. So I'm going to go into that topic. There's a video. It's like 5 minutes. I'm going to show it because I'm terrible at promoting stuff on my network. I need to do better. But we're going to do that for about 2025. And then Omar has taken note of all of the executive orders that have come down. And he has definitely set not saying that this hasn't happened like this before, but he definitely came in pin smoking. So we'll tease that for now. Omar, the irony was that
can you kick it?
Yes, I can. And the irony was that Trump got inaugurated on King's birthday. And I saw a lot, well, not King's birthday, but Martin Luther King Day. His birthday is actually the 15th. I saw a lot of commentary from all different types of people on King. So I wanted to share my own piece on King. uh, and but it'll go into what the topic is, and it'll make more sense. So bear with us for a little bit, and let's watch. We get to see a live reaction. The privilege of waiting for an ally who treated him with dignity or who shared his values. Let's get it going right though. MLK didn't have the privilege of waiting for an ally who treated him with dignity or who shared his values. No. Instead, he walked into rooms where he wasn't wanted and made demands that couldn't be ignored.
It's much easier to integrate a bus than it is to make genuine integration a reality and quality education a reality in our schools.
Who's suffering while you sit out? Because disengagement might feel righteous, but for the majority of our students who look like us, and communities that depend on us, disengagement is the biggest form of privilege. What's good, people? I'm Dr. Charles Cole III, and it's been a minute, but I'm back with some desperately needed common sense, because common sense ain't all that common these days. Quick aside, let's just get this out the way so I don't get in trouble. Before we start, I want to be clear. These are my personal views. They don't represent anyone else, any organization, or any group. This is about my perspective on the lessons we can draw from history for today. Let's cut through the fluff and let's just get to it. There's going to be enough whitewashing and sanitary retellings of who Martin Luther King Jr. was and what this holiday should mean. But let's approach this civil rights icon and his legacy with some common sense for our people. Martin Luther King Jr. worked with President Lyndon B. Johnson, a man who came from a deeply segregated South and held biases many of us would rightly call unacceptable racist today. I would just say racist. He was a racist. Let's just be clear. These men were fundamentally different and guided by different moral compasses. They were grown men who conducted the business of the people that needed to be conducted. King didn't have the luxury of waiting for someone who shared his values or his worldview. He had to move with urgency because his people couldn't afford to wait. And guess what? Neither can our young people, neither can our schools, neither can our community. But let's break this joint down. Johnson, a man from the South, was raised in a system of segregation, and he carried those values into his new environment. And if you've only been told that he was purely a champion of civil rights and the presidential messiah for Black people, you've of course been lied to. His own biographer, Robert Caro, wrote about how he would call his own civil rights bill the N-word bill. Now, for the record, I don't say N-word. This is a partnership here. But that's what he called the bill. The actual word he was quite fond of using, especially when he was engaging his white supremacist friends and during his decades in Congress fighting against civil rights. But MLK was not concerned about Johnson's personal feelings about him or his people. What mattered was whether Johnson would move the needle on the long-denied civil rights for Black people in this country. And for that, King was willing to have the hard conversations, the uncomfortable meetings, and yes, even the compromises with those who did not see his full humanity. I know it's easy to look at today's power structure and say, I'm not working with that person. I don't like their politics. I don't trust them. I don't like who this president is. They're all part of the problem. And I get it. And I agree on many levels. But let me ask you this. Who's suffering while you sit out? Because disengagement might feel righteous, but for the majority of our students who look like us and communities that depend on us, disengagement is the biggest form of privilege. They can't afford for us to wait until we feel comfortable. King wasn't naive. He wasn't game goofy out here. He knew Johnson wasn't his friend, but he also knew Johnson was the man in power. And Johnson also had things to gain and lose. And power moves systems, not feelings. Let me give you another example. You've probably heard about the mafia, but you might not have heard about the five families in organized crime. These were different factions of Italian-American mob families that were often mortal enemies. But when it came to business, they sat in the same room, negotiated business, and made agreements. Nefarious as they were. Why did they do this? Because they understood the stakes. In this case, a lot of money and power. And what was at risk by refusing to engage with each other? Now, if these lifelong mortal enemies could come together for their own financial interests or power over New York as a whole, how much more should we be able to do to fight for the future of our children? We don't have to like people who are in power. The reality is that even if we do, we won't agree with them on everything. Hell, We should be working to put people into power who truly align with us and our interests. But what we have to do now is constantly fight for our children, our communities. Fight for their right to a quality education. Fight for resources in their schools which are too often denied. Fight for them to know the truth about who they are and where they come from. And fight for their ability to gain the skills they need to thrive as an inner society. Sitting it out might make you feel good in the moment, but it doesn't do a damn thing for the child who's waiting for a good teacher, a great counselor, or a safe school to embrace them and help them grow. Here's the common sense reality. We don't have the luxury of inaction. We don't have the luxury of waiting for the perfect ally to save us. Actually, no one's coming to save us. Remember that. And King understood this. He didn't just preach to the choir, he walked into the lion's den. And because he did, laws changed, lives changed. We're talking about voting rights for our people, ending legal discrimination, and effectively ending the evil that was Jim Crow. Yeah, we might have to sit at the table with people we can't stand and who can't stand us, but if it's for our kids, if it's for our communities, if it's for their education, if it's for the future of our people, then it's worth it. Every single damn time. The stakes are too high and the clock is ticking. This isn't about comfort, it's about responsibility. So let's get to it. Peace. All right. So you guys go and subscribe to Ed Post. You can find those there. Just search Common Sense, Dr. Cole. It should come up. But yeah, man, that is, you know, the conversation that we were that I was having, and partially because, again, I kept hearing these esteemed people that I respect for and that have a lot of power and a lot of influence just kind of throw in the towel. And then they kind of really went into talking about King. And I'm like, but King stepped in the room with a very well-known racist, and those two men had the business of the people to conduct. So, you know, like I said, it says something about the level of privilege somebody has to just be able to disengage. Everybody can't necessarily do that. I don't like Trump. I've put that out there. It's not a secret. I was not very fond of Kamala Harris. I was not fond of this ticket. I was not fond of, you know, the way Biden went back on his word to be a bridge president and then to put forth the beautiful bench that the Democrats have, all of which he said could beat Trump, just for that man to win in the fashion that he did. And there's still work to be done. So what are your thoughts on that, O? Like, what, you know, how do you feel about people that's just gonna like not necessarily engage? Like, what would you say to them? And you might agree. Maybe you're just like, you know what, I got to protect my energy. I don't know, but the floor is yours.
Man, I got a lot to say. I find it a little bit of irony just to begin with, because, you know, one of the things that really was unsettling with me was at the end of Obama's term, and we talk about it a lot, you know, Merrick Garland was up for a Supreme Court nomination. And the Republicans just were like, hey, man, no, it's like we're throwing in the towel. You only have a year left, and we're not going to work with you on this one. In fact, you don't have the right to do this. And it just always seems like and I'm not going to make this chasm between Democrats and Republicans, because I think right now, if you're a citizen of the United States and you're sitting here watching the scenario, and to quote Dave Chappelle from Saturday Night Live just the other night, you know, this time we need to do better. We need to do better by each other. We need to do better as a country, and we need to do better as a citizenry, because to say I'm going to sit it out, you're absolutely right, Doc. What a place of like bullshit privilege. So like, how the hell do all those people right now, everyone who's dealing with wildfires, everyone who's dealing with inflation, everyone who's dealing with home insecurity, food insecurity, educational crisis, like, you are going to step away from the fire instead of walking right into it just because you are displeased at who is running the show. I would arguably say that in times like these, this is the time to engage the most, you know. And I look at this at like, you know, when Obama got elected in 2008, do you remember that? It was like, everyone was like, well, shit, it's done. Like, racism is done. Civil rights is done. Affirmative action, we don't need that shit anymore. Like, everyone was just like, we did it. And I was like, Wait, no, man, we just barely got the guy elected. We got a shitload of work to do. This is not how legislation works. Just because you have a figurehead in office that agrees with you does not mean that the fight has not started. Because I'll tell you what, like when Obama got elected, man, those Republicans came in hard. And that was a hard, long fight that they fought against him for 8 years, which I didn't agree with. So to say we're just going to casually disengage, I'm like, where? Like to your, like to Mar-a-Lago, to your weird, like encampment in Hawaii, to, you know, whatever suburb that you live in. I think it's extraordinarily irresponsible to think to yourself that because I don't agree with someone, I'm going to not engage. Instead of, look, I don't care anymore about the political ideological perspectives that divide us. I care so much about what are the causes that unite us. What
Right.
are the things that people need, and how are we going to work together? And just because you voted for Trump and I voted for, you know, Kamala or whatever, doesn't mean that we don't have an agreement about what's going on here. Because I will say this, regardless of who's in power, I'm always incredulous of who's in power, my man. Always, no matter what, Democrat or Republican, are they working for the betterment of the citizenry of the United States? Like, I'm a Thomas Paine man. And if
Yeah.
you ain't working towards the egalitarianism and equality of all in this country, I'm going to have a bone to pick. So to say, yo, I'm out, I'm like, what kind of like Rocky Four bullshit is this, man? You throw in the towel, like, yo, man, you can't do that shit, man. Just because you got a enormous Russian taking steroids and exercising on insane equipment doesn't mean that you got to throw in the towel. In this case, I feel like I'm Clubber Lang. I want to come into the situation and inflict pain on those who ate down with egalitarianism.
I mean, I agree. I listen, man. Sometimes things just not gonna go the way that you
The
want
way
them
you think
to
you're
go.
going to go.
And they didn't go how I wanted them to go. Now I hold my own party accountable for that. I think that Democrats lost it as much as Republicans won it. And we've talked about that. You and I talked about this long before we even got to this role, even before I think Kamala was the candidate, like around how to get to look at this stuff. It was just a piss poor effort at a campaign. And that's not anything against any of those people personally. When we say it's a piss poor campaign, is if you knew that this guy Biden was only supposed to be there for one time, you should have been building the bench. You should have had the primary ready to go. But people get power hungry and they get greedy, and this is the repercussion of that. And you know, elections have consequences. But with that being said, that doesn't mean I get to disengage, because it felt like people were disengaged my entire childhood. It felt like when I was in those shelters, or when my parents was on that shit, or when I was going to all these schools or the crime or whatever, it felt like people were taking a break, and I suffered from that. So why would I submit other communities and other people from it if I have power, if I'm able to have that type of access? And I wanted to lead with King because I love Dr. King, and I hate when he gets whitewashed, and I also hate when other people forget that he wasn't doing the thing that was comfortable, or that he necessarily wanted to do. You think it's not hard to trade from JFK to LBJ? Like you don't think those conversations was a little different, even though the Kennedys themselves also had little things to say and had their own issues around Black folks? But what I'm saying is that in a system where it is already set up for us to fail and not do well, you can't just take yourself off the board. I think that's a brittle, weak spirit. I don't. That's not the people that I come from. I don't come from people that just give up or they cut and run. They stick it out and they make this shit work, and they figure it out, and they look out for our people, and they're planning and plotting for the next time. Like the Democrats should kind of be getting ready to go right now. Who are your young stars that you want out there? Give them the platform right now and have them talk and win back people. You know, I think that this was one of probably the most disillusioned elections for my party that I've probably seen in my lifetime, that I've been conscious of this thing, you know. And so That's just my piece. I know we're gonna get into some of your stuff in about 10 minutes. We're going to 30 on this one, and then we're gonna close out with your topic. But I just really just want to talk to the people that just were like, you know, they still pouting in there. It's like, yeah, if he is as dangerous as y'all said that he is. First off, Obama was keying with him. I don't know if you felt like somebody was a Nazi. I don't know if y'all should have been chopping it and having that good of a time with an actual Nazi. Because you said that. I didn't say he was a Nazi. You said he was a Nazi. You scared us and told us what he was, but now you keying to the point where your wife ain't show up to that and it's like, I'm not going to this inauguration. But if he is as dangerous as you say he is, how could we fathom stepping off the board? Like, how? How could you do that? Maybe we got to take a book out of the Republicans page and be an irritant the entire way then, or something. But you can't just abandon your people.
Yeah, I'll say 3 things. One, I mean, look, man, I don't know if you saw, like, and again, the news cycle, and I don't want to get into, like, you know, even SNL made fun of the fact that, like, we don't want to get into this crazy ass news cycle where we're just commenting on everything that, you know, Trump did. But there was like an interesting video of Elon Musk doing what looked really close to like the Zeke Kyle.
Like, didn't it?
Like, yeah, and I'm like, listen, like, I'm a public speaker. I've spoken in public a lot. Ain't never been a time in my life that I got even close to some kind of hand gesture or arm gesture that closely resembled the Zeke Kyle. So, look, I may never call the man a Nazi, but I don't know what the hell kind of like weird SS socialist shit that Elon Musk is throwing out in public. That man needs to like watch himself and whatever this shit the Department of Efficiency is, because I'm going to tell you what the most inefficient thing about government right now is the Department of Efficiency. I can't wait to see what these 2 people come up with. Toya,
Vivek had to step out. Vivek stepped off. I think they pushed him out, but I know he's about to run for office again. They said it would be a conflict of interest. So I actually wanted to see what Vivek had to say. I mean, again, I'm quite interested, but yeah, man,
I'm interested to see what these people say. Sort of like, does Elon like, cool, man, like, so supposedly you're really smart, but the overwhelming majority of what you're talking about, he thinks he's going to make all these cuts in payroll. And I'm like, bro, you're not even going to broach like the tip of the iceberg of code efficiency from a payroll perspective.
Look, you're starting to inch into your topic in the next 30. You inching into your topic.
I mean, I'm maybe that's a good ass segue, but I'm with Chad over here, man. Listen, like, there's some weird shit that we're seeing, but because it is weird, and look, Toya, you said it right. Like, I'm not disengaging. I'm focusing on my own community. Politics are local. And that's something that I really think that the Democratic Party needs to strongly look at if they're going to re-engage, is that as Clinton came in and had a monumental win in 1992 and 1996, the Republicans went very local. They started gerrymandering. I don't think that's a good idea, clearly. In fact, it's not only illegal, but unethical. But they really started focusing on local elections. And when we saw the school board discussions happening, that was very local. And I think what Doc and I are trying to say is that, look, there's very little that I can do other than, you know, be on a platform and talk about whether President Trump is going to do right by the people. We'll get into the fact that I don't think he understands what a tariff is. But I think what Doc and I are saying is that we need to be pushing in on these local components and not just engaging. How are we focusing more on making sure that our school board's doing right? How are we making sure that our local elections are going out and actually going the way that we want them to go, and that we're being vocal about who our mayors are, who our city representatives are, who our U.S. representatives are? Because ultimately our judges, man, like our judges, that's another huge component. These people make an inordinate amount of decisions, and we need to have some say-so on how they go.
Can I jump in, because I'm going to move us to your topic in a few minutes. So and I think it will be a good segue, because I do want to get this out. But what Toya said, I'm gonna put the comment back up. this is what we should have always been doing. Even if them Democrats are the ones in office. Listen, man, to the people that I love and care about, I promise you, you are not the focal point for either one of these parties. I just promise you that you're not. Like, we also just saw, listen, man, if we're going to call it the hypocrisy, the Black Panthers had always made sure you were aware of the contradictions, that you were aware that all of these people are hypocrites. What I mean is, when Trump was pardoning people, remember what they said? Why would you pardon somebody if you're innocent? Who needs to pardon if you're innocent? Only guilty people pardon people. You know what happened yesterday? That man pardoned his entire family. He pardoned Fauci. And again, I know why he did it. I would have done it too. But the issue is that my party loves to stand on this molehill of we are better than people morally. And then we do everything like Hunter Biden. Like, look, man, if Hunter Biden was a Black dude from Detroit, his ass would be under the jail. And so, if we're going to do the hypocrisy, they're all hypocrites. They are politicians. They are not who you're going to date. They're not your friends. You're not picking a mate. You're not picking somebody to go have a beer with. You're picking somebody that's going to represent you to the best that they can, and you're going to hold them accountable. You should not be in love with your politicians by the very nature of who they are and what they need to actually be effective at their jobs. It is in conflict with your emotions. And like I said in the video, emotions don't make movements. Policies do. Being practical does. And so I agree with you. We need to be in our communities and focusing on those in this administration, but we should do that in all. But I actually think in the national game, we need to be involved. I think wherever there's an opportunity to have one of our people in the room and that actually see things similar to how we see it, or understand the education things that are at risk or what needs to happen, like, you got to be in the game. You can't just play the game when the game is full with people that you like. That's not how it goes. And as we talked and screamed about saving democracy for all this time, you can't now take your ball and go home because your guy didn't win. My guy didn't win. I'm disappointed, but what that means is we work harder, we plan, we plot, and we put up some actual politicians and some actual people from that bench that people would be happy to vote for. Not just because of identity, not just because you want to punk somebody into voting for them, not just because you want to call them an ist or ism or whatever. I mean, Omar, we were having this conversation just from a political place and just had any type of criticism, and it always came back, well, you're a misogynist, or you're this, or you're that. It's like, nah, man, like, it's a rough candidacy, B. Like, it's really rough. It's not, and again, that's not, I don't put that all on her. I put that on the establishment and the party. They should have set her up better. She should have had a primary. She should have been able to win it, and she should have been off the bench earlier with us seeing her, so she wasn't introducing herself in that space. But with that being said, I think it's whack juice. Whack juice.
Oh, wickedy whack.
Power. You are dripping in whack juice if you got some power and you saying, well, I'm going to sit out. That means that tell me your kids is in private school and you got bread, or you can isolate yourself in a different way. And from where I come from, I just can't do that. That's Buster shit. So that's the end of my topic. I didn't want to take up all your time on it, man. I know we were gonna be I know we the second part is yours. I just wanted to get out the way early with 2 extra minutes to spare, and we will go where you want to go for this duration. If you're out there, though, please like, subscribe, and comment. Be a part of the conversation.
Always, man.
We talk to you. We will make sure we thank you for it. Share with your friends, but be a part of the actual conversation, and we'll let you feel like you're part of the show.
Absolutely. And you are part of the show. We love incorporating every comment that we read into the conversation. Keep it up. Look, man, that was badass. Like, I think at reflecting on an inauguration, reflecting on what MLK fought to do, now into a transition of what is this man actually doing? Because I'll tell you what, like, I remember from even the Obama era when we all elected Obama and we're like, all right, it's done. The level of kind of disengagement was pretty precipitous thereafter. And even he was like, no, man, we got to organize. We've got work that we've got to get done, things that we got to get passed through Congress. The thing is, I think people's interest peaks clearly at the election and the inauguration. And then it's like, well, we elected the guy to do what we needed him to do. So go do it. And let's not even pay too much attention to what's going on. So what is going on? Yo, it is day one. Day one. Like he got inaugurated yesterday. That is day one. Today is, I guess, sort of day two. And what all has happened? I'm going to go through a couple. God dang, dude. I'm going to go through a number of these executive actions. I can't go through them all because this guy literally hit the ground sprinting. For a man who can
Executive orders McGee over here, man. He was
shit. Listen, man.
I don't want a politician to ever tell me they can't do nothing for my people ever again. And they got to serve everybody. Because this cat came out and served up his base filet mignon for them.
Hell yeah. And I'm talking about some good ass filet, man. Start with just January 6th. Everyone pardoned. Pardoned AF. Everybody. So anybody who was in the process of getting prosecuted for January 6th, that is done. They've all been pardoned. Speaking about being pardoned, he pardoned himself. He pardoned everybody. I mean, we're just talking about Neil Gorsuch, who was supposed to be the independent counsel, who was going to be a Supreme Court justice. And I'm like, hey, man, way to drop the ball on that shit. Because all the overriding consensus is that he would have been convicted. And I'm like, well, why the fuck didn't you do it then? Now it's done. The man is in charge of the Department of Justice. All that shit pardoned. Done. Pausing TikTok. That one was an interesting one. Kids happy as hell. Adults wondering what the shit happened. There was a legislative ban on TikTok. And by ban, what I want to say is that, let me get this clear.
I'm doing a live broadcast of the show now on TikTok. It can hear you. It's not getting your video, but it's getting the video. But it went away and people lost their shit.
Yeah.
And he got to be a folk hero.
Indeed, man. The cultural hero of TikTok. And the idea was they wanted the legislative action was to upend Chinese investment in the company because it's a Singaporean company. It's a Singaporean CEO. In fact, I saw the man testify and he's like, I'm not from China. I'm from Singapore. It's a totally different country. But the idea was like, we got to upend the Chinese investment because you don't want the spying to be happening. And Donald Trump's like, fuck it. Let's keep that spying going.
Well, I'll be fair. Because again, I don't like the man, but I want to be fair to him. I will say it's an extension of 90 days. That what they have to do is they have to find an American investor. They don't want it just solely controlled by China. And to be very funny and frank, what we did is we went and signed up on Red Note, which is actually ran by the Chinese government.
The Chinese.
So it is.
They talk about that Shark Tank cat to buy all of TikTok.
I mean, he put
Kevin O'Leary.
He put a group together. I mean, look, it's gonna make a ton of money. So but they want an American entity. I didn't mean to cut it. I just wanted to,
No. Keep going. We got to keep up the good ass jibba jabba. Speaking of,
because I just think he's gonna do bad enough on his own. Like, I'm not rooting for Trump to be bad. Like, I'm not rooting for him to fail. Like, he's still over this country that I live in. Like, I want him to do well the same way I would have wanted Kamala Harris to do well, the same way I would have wanted Barack Obama or Bush or whatever. Right? Like, again, don't cut your nose to spite your face. Like, let's not do that. But I think that he's going to have more than enough faux pas that are going to be factual that I don't need to add sauce to it. I think our side had a lot of sauce and it didn't work this time. And we started looking crazy.
I'm with you, man. I want no matter who's the president of the United States to represent the United States. I want to make sure that we are holding people accountable to actually representing everybody instead of vindication. And I got to tell you, it's a lot of vindication, man. He is out there. Like, he is basically asking the DOJ to find anybody who went against him and basically weaponizing them to prosecute anyone who came against him. I mean, he is ready to weaponize the DOJ. And look, I'm rooting for anybody who is going to help the people. But that kind of petty shit, I'm like, that's what you're going to I mean, shouldn't we be using the DOJ to create like greater senses of equity and equality across America? And you're using them as your personal militia? Like that's kind of effed up. He has rescinded 78 of Biden's executive orders. I can't get into all those right now. He has passed an executive order. This one was the most interesting one because, like, listen, man, maybe you can help me out here. I don't pretend to be an expert on microeconomics and macroeconomics, but he passed an executive order, an emergency price relief for inflation. Do you have any idea how the hell that's going to work? Like you pass something and the gas company's like, yeah, we're just going to decrease the price of oil.
It's supposed to be a subsidy in there, right? Like it's supposed to kind of be like a repayment thing. Like, yo, we'll give you this relief. Almost think of it like
to the people or to like the grocery stores.
It's supposed to be to the corporations, right? Almost think about people like in the Midwest. We needed corn. We're going to pay more for your corn. We're going to supplement this corn, you know, at the risk of these other things to bring the price to a control point. But again, I'm not an economist. I have to go and look at it, but I went through all here's a lot of executive orders. Let me stop jumping in because it's a lot to get through.
No, yeah, man. Listen, like, and if our audience knows, like, help me out here because, like, this emergency price relief thing, I've been trying to read into it and understand, like, how the hell this is going to work. And I'm like, all right. Immigration. Oof. This man's been bonkers. He declared a national border emergency. He has clarified the role of the military at the border. He is ending catch and release. Here's one that I found to be particularly fascinating.
Okay.
He is labeling all cartels and cartel leaders as terrorists.
I like that.
And like this one is fascinating, man, because I tell you what, this goes into a little bit of conspiracy shit, but he wants to declassify JFK, RFK, and MLK, the assassinations, which I'm 100% for. What they're going to find out with the JFK assassination was that Nixon was completely involved. LBJ was complicit. This is why they covered it up, because for the American people to find out that an American president essentially organized the assassination of an American president is going to be mind-boggling.
Now, Omar, like I don't know none of this mind-boggling. Omar, can you not get my phones tapped and all kind of shit tapped? I don't know
all
this.
All my shit tapped, baby.
I don't know where Omar got that information from. I've never heard of
that. Don't run away from the truth, but. Like I said, with a disclaimer,
I need a source on that one, B.
That is the theory. That is a conspiracy theory. Oh, the source was two gentlemen, the one who ran the entirety of the Watergate legal proceedings and the assassin of JFK came out on a podcast and just declaratively said, here's what's going on. Just right out into the open.
Be surprised. I really wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
it's crazy. But what I was getting at was that it is well documented that the CIA has funded a number of their ops and black ops operations through the cocaine trade. So I find it really interesting now that, like, okay, you're calling the cartels terrorists and they're the ones who funded all of your like weird CIA shit in the past. I guess when it was convenient for those cartel leaders to fund your extraordinarily nefarious projects, that's cool. And now that it's not, I guess we're gonna issue war on them. The hypocrisy is just like out of the gate, man. He is essentially denying refugee resettlement. This one's crazy. He wants to end the birthright citizenship. So if your parents were in a fuzzy legal status, but you were born in the United States, he wants to end that. He wants to say, you are not a United States citizen, which clearly is going to go to the Supreme Court. He ended the Paris Accords. He has now opened up a number of oil and fracking in the United States when it comes to the climate change. I mean, I'm just trying to make a point that, like, this man walked in and I think has already issued 145 executive orders. Just for comparison, James Madison, who wrote the Constitution, issued one. when he was president of the United States.
But listen, man. I mean, look, that dude base showed up for him, and now he's rewarding his base. And I mean, and he's also done some other shit, like he's, there were some equality things and equity things that he's definitely gotten rid of. He's redefined what a man and a woman is again. He's kind of taken the other classifications out. He's done a lot. And again, elections have consequences. And if it's one of the biggest elections of all time, I need my party to run and act like it's one of the biggest ones of all time. I need your I's dotted and your T's crossed. This is not some small level IRS, like, oh, you missed a zero here. This was like for the presidency. I will say this though, man, like for my people that's not feeling this, that might be worried or afraid or whatever the case is, this is when you actually organize. This is when if there's any silver lining for people here, I will say this. This is the part where we should have been doing this anyway. We should have been on top of our game, organizing in our communities, making sure we had things regardless of where the politics were. We should have held Democrats to higher account earlier. We should have held we should have held the Republicans to higher account early. But if there's any silver lining, is that our people is that the left is on full alert. So being on full alert, don't go comatose. Like, be on top of it. Like, what are the things that you're trying to knock out? What's the things you're trying to have rock and say and do whatever? And it's gonna be interesting. I just got kicked off of TikTok. They said it was misinformation. You got me kicked off of TikTok, man.
Shit, man.
It's okay. Look.
I apologize about that.
That was fast. Like that. It is crazy.
That's insane. Oh shit. Oh shit. There you go. That's insane. The government is listening to us.
Like, on punishment, man.
Our little humble show, man. That is crazy.
I have
a little
to
humble show.
Well, I'm already shadow banned on YouTube because I did a show with Fred Hampton Jr. and I've been shadow banned on Facebook and YouTube for since that happened. He was talking about his father and the Panthers. It was great. We went some hours. And then where I used to get thousands of views and tens of thousands, your shit is at 17. It's like, oh, okay, all right, that's crazy. So working my way out of shadow ban. So you're in good company. Well, you and the Black Panthers have gotten me shadow banned.
I don't know, man. I find it ironic considering the fact that wasn't it Trump and Elon Musk that have pervade the idea that freedom of speech is something that we should be protecting. And wasn't it that, wasn't Mark Zuckerberg just at the election and the inauguration?
None of them on TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. I find it slightly ironic that as we discuss the freedom and dissemination of ideas, some of which that have an incredible level of evidence behind them. And mark my words, if these 3 individuals get declassified and people find out exactly what's going to happen or what did happen, you can expect some interesting ass results. I think people are going to be shocked and horrified. And I think this nation has to come to terms with what are we going to do to move forward and actually start not just understanding one another, not just working with one another, not just healing one another, but this endless fighting for what camp we're in and this endless fighting about who's in charge is diminishing away from our ability to see one another as community members and understand what we need to do to actually work together to make our lives better and really address some very severe needs that are happening in our community. As we all rally behind, we're we won and they took our gerbs and whatnot. Are we dealing with homelessness? Are we dealing with food scarcity? We dealing with the impending educational crisis. I got to tell you, I'm worried about education, man. I'm really worried. That's why we got a show. It's not just about the literacy. To me, I want to double down on the fact that we need to be teaching our kids common sense and critical thinking and communication skills and being able to read a book and ascertain facts and understand what it is to get together and actually achieve something with common purpose versus this individualized, overly individualized reality that we have, where I'm just going to be on my phone or have the privilege, like you said in the earlier part of the show, of tuning out and just disengaging. And I'm like, look, if shit goes down anywhere around the world, and it may go down in your community like it is going down in Los Angeles right now, do you think those Angelinos are sitting there being like Republican, Democrat? Like they are, no, man, like they are engaging deeply in how do I get my things out of this house? How do I relocate? How do I help those who have been dislocated? What about those who've lost their homes? How do we rebuild this community if we can rebuild it? I don't think they're squabbling about the political allegiance. I think they're wondering, does the very systems that we have paid in to work? And, you know, I just heard a show where people were fucking politicizing the situation in Los Angeles. And I'm like, how can we continue to politicize a situation when people need to actually come together, work towards a common cause? And doesn't it all start with literacy? Hell yeah. Like you can't, I've always said, and this is what I think people don't understand about reading. It's like, look, man, you believe in exercise, you believe in walking, you believe in running. We all know that exercise is good for you. Reading is the exercise of the brain. It is what develops so many pathways and neurons in our imagination and our ability to understand language. And by the way, like until we figure out some kind of ESP shit, the best mode of communication that we still have, ladies and gentlemen, reading, writing, and speaking. And that necessitates literacy in order to communicate effectively. And if we're unable to communicate effectively, how are we going to solve the problems of the future? So you can go off all you want about your team and their team and all these like insane declarations, but if you're just bitching and griping about it versus actually engaging and doing something about it and organizing and making sure that y'all are taking care of your own, what is all that bitching and griping going to actually accomplish?
Yeah.
Besides fucking nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I agree with you. I think, I mean, and you know, you said you're really worried about education. I've been worried about education. That's why I do what I do. I didn't choose to like necessarily do this. I kind of fell into it. Like if I had my choice, I'd be a sports agent somewhere. Like, you know, I'd be the Black Jerry Maguire out this piece, Aaron Goodwin or somebody, right? Like I'd be going from a game at the Miami Heat to like LA or something. But I want to be mud wrestling around education issues that we just can't seem to fix and that people don't seem to have the political will to fix. I mean, I think that, you know, there's a lot of things that's here that we should probably I'm not telling you to worry. What I'm telling you is this: prepare. What does it look like to prepare? And again, I'm not going to just sit in this fear, man. I told you how I grew up. I told you where I came from. I told you, like, there's people in my life that are dead. They're not here anymore. Like, none of this shit is scarier than like where I grew up and how I grew up. And none of this shit, like there might be immigrant parents that's looking at situations and like, well, this shit wasn't scary than when I made the trek to come to this place. You know, like when people, when they had the great migration for Black people and they went up from the South up through Chicago and Detroit and then out west to California, like all this growth is scary. Moving forward is scary. Like we can't have a spirit of fear. You know what I'm saying? I know I'm not trying to put religion on nobody, but I know what book I grew up reading. And it was very clear on issues like this and times like this. I'm not saying that this president ain't dangerous. I think they are dangerous. This one might be more dangerous than the rest. I don't know. I don't think Biden was the best cat either, to be quite honest with you. He's still pardoning people right now. Like I'm not gonna lull myself into some dream or tell myself some lies. These are people of power, men and women of power, Democrat, Republican, but same gang, gang, the biggest one. And so, you know what I'm saying? So like what do our villages look like, right? Going back to Toya, like how are we taking care of our own? What does that look like? You might not ever get the education and the public apparatus that you deserve for your children. In light of that, in lieu of that, if you know that, if you know it and you've been knew it, then where are the community education centers? Where's the community tutoring? Where's the where are the community school hubs? Where are like these independent schools that are outside of this apparatus? Like we gotta, if we know the problem, look, if your house is crawling with roaches, and you better go buy some Raid, cuz. Like, I don't know what to oh, it's just all these roaches here. Like, yeah, they make roach bombs, bro. I'm from the projects. We've seen roach bombs a lot. All I'm saying, as I get what you're saying, I get where he's at. And my thing is this: you got to stop trying to love these politicians, man. Love your people. What is it like to love yourself? What is it like to love your neighbor? What is it like to love the kids that live across the street from you? What does it look like? That looks like civic engagement. That looks like I am stepping up and I'm doing this. What, like, you know, like my dad used to take a bunch of neighborhood kids, like we was going to a softball game. He would just grab other kids and bring them because their fathers wasn't there, but he was. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and he told those mothers and parents, if you catch mine acting up, you got my permission to wring his neck. Like he shouldn't make it here without, you know what I'm saying? Like, because it takes everybody. So did it have to take for a Trump to get into office for us to finally have some community solidarity? If that's so, then that's the saddest shit out of all of this that I've heard.
Yeah, and I'm with you on this one, man, because look how the Republican Party coalesced and built around like the 4 years of Biden, right? And again, I think it's silly to sit here and like waging a war that is so political as opposed to civic duty and making people's lives better. And I'm not advocating that the Democrats get together and start like joining together to bring the Republican Party down. What I'm saying is what Doc is saying is like, how are we actually getting communities and people together to solve the problems that are in the community? Because instead of disengaging, we are re-engaging. And I'm with you, man. It's a hell of a statement to be like, okay, now that my guy lost, this is what's going to get me activated. This is what's going to get me engaged. And I'm like, why weren't you engaged to begin with? Like, what is this American ideology of like, once we voted, we just want this person to solve all our problems for us? And I see that, like, I see that so often everywhere, even in small organizations, even in mine. It's like, well, you're the person who's supposed to solve all the problems. And I'm like,
oh, it's that shit about JFK. I'm sorry. I just got the reason. My violation reason is misinformation. It's that JFK shit you were saying. Thanks a lot, Omar.
You're welcome. And you know what? I'll double down on that shit because you heard it right here.
I mean, they're not listening anymore. So I need that for my business outlet. So we just going to leave them out of this conversation. It's all good. I'm going to have to say, my bad.
Well, you could say you're bad to those folks. I can say that you're violating the First Amendment, and I can say, by the way, I'm fucking right. And wait for this classification to happen. Wait for that shit to happen. You're gonna find out that I've been telling the truth this all along.
Discuss if vaccines had any impact. Is this how they felt? Like when they just asked
they got shut down. Yeah. They asked the question all of a sudden, like everything shut down and shit. Yeah. And like I'm also just sick and tired of like the violation of our rights. Like, I'm not a big fan of shutting down free speech. I don't care if you're saying something that I vehemently disagree with. I will protect your right to say something I vehemently disagree with, because that is what this nation was founded on. And I'm a big believer in the ideological perspective of this country. I'm a big believer in the Constitution. I'm a big believer in what we've been trying to establish. But if people aren't going to fight for this right, then your rights are going to be trampled on. And what I don't want is an oligarchy. What I don't want is a dictatorship. What I don't want are people to sit out. What I don't want is lack of democracy. What I don't want is a lack of a republic. What now is the time to get together and actually formulate a group of people that have said enough is enough. Fuck this.
Yeah,
like we're gonna stop hating our neighbor. We're gonna stop talking all that shit.
But yeah, I got you. I think we've been a strong oligarchy since I've been on this planet. I mean, when remember when Enron happened? Remember that?
Yeah,
remember when the banks things happened? We had Obama, and it was like, yeah, you about to slam it to these boys, and then they still got their bread and gave themselves bonuses. Yeah, that was oligarchy shit.
Yeah, multi-million-dollar parachutes and shit. Yeah.
Oh yeah, or like Bush being like, oh, black, hey, go Blackwater, go out there and do that thing, or hey, we
the private security firm.
Hey, let's just privatize that whole thing. That's oligarchy. Who got the bread? Again, Democrat, Republican, baby. Is look, they're not speaking the language of politics. They speak the language of power. And you got to start being comfortable and understanding when power is being flexed on you. And power is being flexed. Both these presidents went and pardoned anybody they liked and wanted to. Period. Both these presidents is going to protect their families over yours. Period. They're going to do that. They're going to play in your face. They might give you some flowery language. They may make you feel like you got a verbal hug, but trust and believe. They're going to do did you think Hunter Biden was going anywhere? Did you think Hunter Biden, did you think that Joe Biden was going to hand over his crackhead son and say, put my boy under the jet with his Russian girlfriend and his Russian crack? Did you think that was going to happen? The same way, did you think Trump was going to be like, yeah, my ace, all these January 6 people that have been rocking for me from day one, yeah, I need all that freed up. They just killed the whole storyline of the morning show. I watched the morning show on Apple TV. That was the January 16th. They can't even follow up on that show because it's over. It's just like, oh, now you got a badge of honor. Man, these people don't care about you, man. So what is it? You got to care about yourself. God helps those that help themselves. I'm just telling you.
All right, I just told that to somebody, man. And Toya, said it best, man. Like, ain't nobody gonna save us but us. Doc, you've been saying that for the longest time. We gotta be out here for ourselves. I think if I can just make this more clear.
Oh yeah, bring it home because I gotta leave my all staff at 6.
Yeah, there's nothing that hate is gonna solve. There's nothing that animosity is gonna solve. There's nothing that envy or jealousy or retribution or getting back at people, none of that is going to solve a damn thing. Like, I want us to let it all go. And I'm talking, when I say let it all go, all that negativity, man, vengeance, anger, hate, jealousy, all of it. None of that is going to come help the community, and it's not going to help you, and it's certainly not going to help everyone around us. Like, forgiveness is divine because it is one of the hardest things that we could possibly do, but it needs to be ingrained into our psyche that, as what Doc said, is that these folks that are way on high, that are doing all this shit, there's nothing we can hardly do to affect that other than organizing ourselves to do the right thing here. And all we can do is right by each other, right by our community, right by our kids. And I mean truly right, whether they are from the red or the blue, the Republican, the crackheads or not. Like, we need to coalesce together and simply look out for each other because we know it's right. It's built into our DNA. And to sit here and just lambast and sit it out or blame isn't going to solve shit for anybody. That's just lazy. And when people are suffering and people are going through some shit, that is when you should be stepping up the most, forgiving the most, and understanding what it is that unite us as a human race, not just as a country, not just as a political party. Fuck all that. Like, you need to be saying what's best for humanity. And what's best for humanity right now is making sure that you're looking at the people around you and saying, how are we going to get together and solve this and make sure that our lives are better and our kids' lives are better and tomorrow is better than today because we looked out for ourselves and we didn't sit here and squabble about the petty shit that we can't solve.
I agree. Hey man, I gotta lead this all staff, so mine will be brief and fun. Anytime we get to do this is always a ball when we get to kind of go into this political stuff. And if y'all got questions, again, when Omar and I are talking with each other, we kind of speak at an advanced place of it because we kind of got this political language. But if anything didn't make sense or you had thoughts or questions, for the record, that does not mean I'm not. Your boy will never be Republican, not at all. I just can hold my own party accountable as well, and I can be disappointed in everybody and the players. But regardless of them, I know what they do. I just expect a lot out of us. So with that being said, man, You have been listening to the South Star Classroom. For Jubilee and David, that's Omar. I'm Charles. We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat station. In the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other. Omar, when I hit click, you don't have to wait in the thing. I'll let it go off. Go enjoy yourself while the commercial plays. Peace out. Y'all have a good one.
Today's episode of BS3 Network is brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's is going to McDonald's and creating a universe for longtime fans of both McDonald's and anime. I love sauce on my McNuggets and can't wait to try the savory chili McDonald's sauce. It's savory, chili, and bold. For decades, across various episodes and genres, McDonald's has shown up in the anime world and most commonly called McDonald's. McDonald's will be bringing the McDonald's world to life with episodic shorts and manga comics. For a limited time, anime fans will have the opportunity to experience their favorite fictional restaurant. You have until March 25th to try the new savory chili McDonald's sauce with your 10-piece chicken nuggets.